Spirituality is actually about understanding self. All we have to do is have experiences so we can better understand ourselves. And then what we learn from those experiences, we can integrate those into who we're being. Hi, I'm Shortell. I live what I share with other people. So your spiritual journey, let's talk about it. Have you been frustrated with it? Have you been in a situation where you've gone along and you think you've healed something, and then all of a sudden you're triggered by it all over again and you think nothing's really changed? Why? Why I keep repeating a pattern? When you've read the books, you've done the work, you've attended the seminars, you've learned Reiki, you go do yoga, you do all these things that everyone tells you you're supposed to be doing, and yet still nothing's changing. Why is that? Well, the reason why that's happening is because the other spiritual programs are failing because they're treating spirituality like it's something to do, like it's information to consume instead of transformation to integrate. So what does that mean? Well, you go along a seminar, you hear all these great quotes, you hear these great stories, the stuff you're hearing makes sense, but you're not shown how to apply it to your life. So it's just an idea, it's something that lives up here. So you're thinking about it. So when you go out there and you're experiencing life again the following week, your experience comes from your heart, not from your head. But all the solutions are stored up in your head. They haven't been integrated into who you actually are. They give you generic answers. They give you answers that one answer fits everyone. That's not the case. You need answers specifically for your situation. So you can go through and say, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. They can ask you the right questions. Okay, how are you feeling in that moment? What's actually going on? What are you actually really upset about? These are the kind of questions you need to be asking yourself. These other spiritual programs, they don't ask you those questions. They give you a generic situation and you're supposed to apply it and see how it fits. Most people don't know how to do that. So what they're essentially doing is trying to teach spirituality. That's not what spirituality is. Spirituality is experience. It's us learning and understanding more about ourselves. That's what spirituality is. It's not about taking on what someone else believes. It's not about learning what someone else thinks. It's not about reading this particular book and adopting all the ideas in it. No, that's not spirituality. That's just something else. Spirituality is about discovering of self, and that's all it is. It's not about discovering that person. No, that's their spirituality. My spirituality is about understanding and getting myself. Being able to make the changes within myself so I start acting and being someone different. Not that I'm doing something different, because if it's a doing situation, every time you're confronted with the same thing, you have to remember what is it you're supposed to be doing instead of it happening automatically. So the important thing is, when you're doing spirituality, is learn how to integrate it into who you're being so you can actually transform and embody what you've actually learned. Then it becomes a part of you automatically. So next time you come in that same situation, you behave in a different way. You behave in a way that works. If it doesn't, you adjust it slightly. A lot of spiritual organizations too also think that something like a trigger, etc., pain or healing, it's something to be got rid of. It's something to get out of your life. Whereas it's the exact opposite is what's actually required. You need to actually be embracing it, taking it into who you are and owning it. And at that point that you own it, you have control over it. The moment you think it's outside of yourself, then you don't have control of it. Somebody else does. That's not spirituality. That's control. So what's spirituality then? Well, it's about bringing in and owning it. It's saying, well, I see this thing happening. What can I do about it? So I'm going to take you through some of those steps a little bit later on. So the self-mastery reflection process, it has 5 steps that we take you through. The first step is about self-discovery over teaching. The second step is about experience over information. The third step is about guided self-discovery. The fourth step is about turning your information into wisdom. The fifth part is about experiential integration. Let's talk about the first one. Self-discovery over teaching. So when you go along these seminars, they're telling you things. They're telling you this and that, and all the stuff makes sense. It fits. You think, wow, that's it. I've got it now. I've figured it out. like spirituality is something to do, or something to fix, or something to be got rid of. It's none of those things. Spirituality is actually about understanding self. How do we do that? Well, we start looking for our own answers for our own situation. We do that by hooking into our spiritual helpers. Some people call them spiritual guides, some people call them angels. It doesn't matter what you call it. But it's about a higher self that assists us in our life, and us being able to work things out, or suggestions to make life a bit smoother. So when you're working on something, when you ask your spiritual helpers for help, they can give you suggestions. They can say, well, maybe you can need to look in this area, or maybe go to this seminar, or maybe look at it from this perspective, or have you realised this, or what about that? And so you listen to these things and put them into practice, and you say, okay, so how does that really work? What do I really need to do? And they'll give you some other suggestions. So it's about you finding out for yourself. Because one of the things that does happen is when you're told what to do, it doesn't work. At some point you have to experience it for yourself. We all know that growing up. Our parents say, don't touch that stove, it's hot. Don't touch that stove, it's hot. Don't touch that stove, it's hot. And the parent thinks they've taught them. No, they haven't. They're just giving them information. But until that child touches that hot stove, that's their experience. Now they've learnt it. And that pretty much because of the nature of the experience, they integrate it straight away into who they're being. So they know if they're going to touch that stove, they have to be sure it's turned off. They have to be sure it's cooled down. So that's how that works. Same thing goes on with our spiritual life. So we're looking to understand more about ourselves. Why is that? Well, we haven't come down here to planet Earth to do things. We've been programmed that that's what we're here for. Got to get and do this, we're going to do that. We have to do our purpose. No, it's none of that. All we have to do is have experiences so we can better understand ourselves. And then what we learn from those experiences, we can integrate those into who we're being. That's all it is. So it actually ends up being a process of unfolding who we really are. So who we really are is in here, and we've always been that. It's a good, kind, sharing, loving, understanding part of ourselves. We've always been that, but we've forgotten along the way. Programs are loaded on here, they're loaded on there, and before you know it, we're acting out these programs like subroutines on a computer. Don't even know we're doing it. And then all of a sudden, bang, we get all upset. We don't know why. We haven't traced back to see what's actually happened. So it's about coming down to planet Earth to have experiences to understand more about ourselves. That's what we're here for. So any spiritual healing you're looking for or spiritual journey, it has to be about that. Because if it's not a spiritual journey. It's something else. And that's okay. I'm not here to tell you what kind of experience or what sort of life you have. No. I'm here to help you because you're looking for a way to improve your situation. Looking for a way to step out of the patterns and the automatic reactions that you have instead of being able to just respond when you're ready to respond. That's what it's about. It's being able to be present and calm and be that no matter what's happening around you, you can be calm even though everybody else isn't. If that's what you're looking for, then that's what we're doing here. A lot of people they're looking for it and they can't find that because they're looking for something that they can just do and get it over with. They're looking for, okay, what do I need to do to get the spiritual thing handled? What do I do to get it behind me so I can then go out and live a good life? That's not how it works. It's the journey of us experiencing and understanding ourselves is what life is. And we just go from experience to experience to experience. That's why we're told all the time, follow your heart. Because our heart's going to lead us to the next thing that we're looking for. If we don't follow our heart, we end up at the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time. So by following our heart, we allow ourselves to be led, so we're at the right place at the right time. Now we'll get the best possible chance of learning what we need to learn for ourselves. So with the work that we do, experience over information, that is so important. We take you through a program where as you do the lesson, you're integrating it in your life. You're having a look at your life. You're looking at things that pop up. Spirit set up a whole lot of experiences you have during the week of that lesson that are applicable to that lesson. So you go, wow, it just happened. That's what that was all about. Or your experience might happen, you might be completely lost within that experience. So then what you do is you go back to the lesson, you have a look, you go, there it is there. Now, the thing about that is the lesson's not made for you. Spirit sets experiences up in your life to match what's going on in the lesson. That is so important. So the information is there, that's important, but unless you have an experience to go with it, it's not going to be able to integrate. You're not going to understand how you actually do it. But when you see it playing out right in front of you, now all of a sudden you say, that's what actually happens. And you can go into it in a bit more detail. So the program's set up as a guided self-discovery. So what does that mean? Well, simply put, you're working through and finding the answers for yourself. So there's no one there telling you what you need to get out of it. In fact, you do it with a group of people. You go away on your own and do the lesson for the week. Then you come back at the end of the week, online Zoom call, and then you just share what it is that you learned for the week. Now, everybody's did the same lesson. They go around and they share what they learned through the week, how their life changed, what they've now integrated, and you go, we all did the same lesson and everyone's getting something completely different. Why is that? Well, because it's a guided self-discovery. You're leading yourself with the help of your spiritual helpers, and you're finding out what you need to know next. Now, there may not be a specific thing in that one lesson that you need to learn right now, but you'll be led to the thing that you do need to learn. Like, who's ever been at a party or a gathering where someone starts telling a joke, another person tells a joke, another person tells a joke, and before you know, everyone's got a joke to tell? How does that work like that? Well, because it works by association. You hear a joke, it has a certain flavour, a certain bent, or a certain type of humour. That triggers your memory, and you remember another one. If you're game enough, you'll tell your joke, and then that will trigger someone else off. Same thing happens here. When you're sharing with the other group of people, and you're listening to what it is that they got from the same lesson, you go, oh, that's really interesting. So you're getting a different perspective on the same thing. You've got your own perspective, now you hear everyone else's. One of the things it does, which is really powerful, is it also helps us to let go of getting it right. Because with the same lesson, everyone's got a different viewpoint. They've got a different experience, they've got a different lesson. So what I'm experiencing is right for me, and what they're experiencing is right for them. We'll never all have the same experience. We haven't. All of us have gone through eons of time, and we've all had accumulation of so many experiences, and they're all different to everybody else. For all different sorts of things. Even the same people in the same family have a different experience of their upbringing. They have a different experience of their parents. They have a different experience of each one of the siblings. That's why what we're experiencing, what I'm experiencing, and what you experience, that's all that matters. We might look at how it impacts other people, but that's just to give us feedback. It's not that we're responsible for that. We're responsible in how we deliver it. If we want a certain outcome, that's up to us. So turning knowledge into wisdom, how we do that is through sharing. So if it just stays up here in your head, then it doesn't become wisdom. It's just information. And when we pass on, it doesn't come with us. The mind, the brain, stays here on planet Earth. Our feeling part, that's what goes with us, because this is who we are. So to move it from this to this, so we can take it with us from lifetime to lifetime, what we need to do is share it, and we need to put it into practice. So it's two things. We need to share with other people, and as we're sharing it verbally with other people, then we're putting it together for ourselves, and we're getting really crystal clear about what is it we actually learned and what we can do with it. The next thing is to put it into practice. So how you do this is, it's really actually quite simple. Once you've had the experience, you make the commitment to integrate it. So what I do is I say, I'm committed to this being integrated and who I am from here on, for the rest of this lifetime and forever after. Now what I find when I do that is I start automatically implementing that without me even having to think about it. It's interesting, isn't it? So let me tell you a couple of stories to help you relate to what I'm talking about. So I used to share a household with someone who liked to drink tea from a cup and saucer, and they ended up leaving tea bags all around the house, on coffee tables and a side bench, kitchen bench. everywhere. They'd fall off the saucer and they'd stay there. And I'd continually point out to the person that the tea bag's left behind, and I'd pick it up and I'd be not majorly upset, but I'd be annoyed is probably the better word. I'd be annoyed that they didn't do anything about it and that I had to do something about it because I like to have a clean house. So I'd point it out to them, and no amount of pointing out to them changed the situation at all. And one day I got pretty frustrated, and someone pointed out to me the own system that I created, the self-mastery reflection process. And I thought, okay, so let's implement that on this particular situation. So what I did was I said to my spiritual helpers, okay, so I'm upset about these tea bags being left around. So whatever it is the concept is behind that, I want to know what it is that I do. So what do I do that's similar to that has me be annoyed that I can't see what that is? And sure enough, within 24 hours, I walk in through the house, past the kitchen, where all the main thoroughfare is. I take my shoes off, I just plop them there, and I walk into the kitchen. Make myself a cup of tea, I come back at it, and I trip over my own shoes. I look down and I go, what the? And I look down and see, oh, they're my shoes. And then I get goosebumps all over, which is your spiritual helpers telling you that they're there, that I'm present, is what they're saying. So I got the goosebumps. I said, okay, so this has to do with the tea bags. I got goosebumps again. And I said, okay, so what's that really all about? I leave my shoes lying around, so I'm not being responsible for dealing with my own energy, keeping myself compact, not having loose ends, allowing my energy just to fray away. And I thought that's what that tea bag thing was all about. The person wasn't being responsible for their own energy. That's what was upsetting me. It wasn't the tea bag, it was they weren't being responsible for their own energy. And that's what I was doing. That was the core underlying thing that I wasn't doing, was being responsible. So I made a commitment at that point. I didn't say, I'm never going to leave my shoes there again. I didn't say that. I said, from now on, I'm committed 100% for me being responsible for my energy and making sure I don't leave any loose energy lying around, and I'm compact and I put everything back to where it belongs. And I'm committed to doing that now and forever. And from there on, everything's always gone back into the place that it belongs. I don't leave anything lying around. Now, here's what's really interesting about that story. I then went around and picked up all the tea bags then for the next year or two that person I was sharing a house. And it never bothered me. I never had the need to mention it to the person. I just did it automatically. And when that person moved out, eventually nothing had changed for them. But I was really happy. Now, why did I continue to clean up tea bags? Because I wanted to clean a house. But I no longer was annoyed. I actually felt of service. So I integrated it all. I found out what had actually happened. I asked for the help and asked the right questions. I worked the self-guided part with working with my guidance so they could direct me. I had experience set up for me, which is my shoes. And then I could see what it was and I owned it. And I said, okay, so at this particular point, I want to do something about it. I'm committed that it never happens again. I had enough of it. I don't want to keep doing it over and over. So that was the process put into action. Now, why do we do things over and over and over? Well, sometimes it's because we enjoy doing it. Sometimes because we haven't got the lesson yet. Or maybe we haven't got the full lesson. We've got only parts of it. So if a trigger or something that's hurt you is really deep, then it can take time to overcome that. Sometimes it can take years. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't matter how long it takes. The main thing is that you're moving along that particular journey. It's okay if it takes a while for something to heal. Just understand that that's what's actually happening. So sometimes when we think nothing's changed, things are changing subtly. So what actually happens is, if something is really intense, let's say from a scale of 0 to 10, this thing's at a 10. You're not going to bring it down to 0 in an hour. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is you can bring it down from a 10 down to a 9 or maybe an 8. Once you've got it down to an 8, you let it go. Don't worry about it. Don't try to remember you're still working on it. That doesn't matter. Spirit's got a funny way of presenting it to you when you're ready to deal with the next part again. So when it turns up again, which might be next week, it might be in a month's time, it might be next year when you catch up with the family again. And then you get triggered by it all and you go, oh, great. And the question to ask yourself is, what number was that? What intensity? Oh, it was an 8. That's right, it was an 8. How was it this time? Wow, it was a 7 or it was a 6. Then you go away and you work on it a little bit more. So next time you go out and you get treated again, you go, what was that? Well, it was a 4 or it was a 3. Great, now you work it on some more and you bring it down to a 2. Next time you go out there, you say it was a 2, let's get it down to a 0. So it takes time to do it like that. But that's a gentle way of doing it. You don't have to go at spirituality like a bull in a china shop. You just take it each step at a time. Allow Spirit to guide you. Allow yourself to be led. Allow yourself to arrive at the right time at the right place with the right people, hearing the right things, that it's exactly what you're looking for. So that's a key point, exactly what you're looking for. Do you have goals? Have you set spiritual goals? I want to heal this. I'd like to be this. I'd like to handle my life this way. I'd like to be able to have this kind of enjoyment, or I'd like to just be at peace with everything, even though all the stuff around me is falling apart. If you've got goals like that, then your spiritual guides can lead you along the way to get you there. And you'll start to see it happening. You'll see it unfolding that way. So spiritual goals really are about unfolding yourself, about removing programming, not about fixing anything. It's about removing programming so the real you will shine through. And that's what people say. When you start the spiritual journey and you really start to understand about the experience and integrating it, people around you will notice and they'll point it out. They say, what is it about you? There's something's happened. You've changed. You're a lot calmer, or you're this, or you're that. Or I wasn't expecting that reaction. I was expecting what you normally do. People actually say stuff like that. And you go, yeah, I've modified a few things. Don't have to give them an explanation. You don't owe them anything. Don't owe them an explanation or anything. Now, if they ask you a whole lot of questions, just answer the question. Don't go in a whole rigmarole about what's happening, because that's their journey. Oh, you become the teacher to them, telling them what they should be doing, which you now know wasn't working for you when you went to all those seminars. So the way you can be for your friends is an example. Go out and live your life. Those that are interested in it, they'll come over and they'll ask you questions. They'll even ask you what you're doing. You say, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this particular program. You go, well, how do I get involved in that? And then they go off and they get involved in the program that you're doing. That allows them a choice as to how they conduct and how they experience their own spirituality. Because that's what happened for you. That's what in the end had it work for you, because you were discovering it for yourself. Not having someone else telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. That's what happens in the classroom. It doesn't happen in real life. So there can be high expectations when doing spiritual work because of what you've heard from other people. Spiritual learning is a quantum thing. It's not a linear thing. So you don't have to do A, B, C, D to get to E. You can go from A to E. Then you go back and do B later, and then D, and then go back and do C later, and then jump to G. So what does all that mean, really? It means you don't have to do it in any particular order. All you need to do is just be at the right place at the right time for you to get what you need to get. So when you've had something around a long time that you want to deal with, you just stay relaxed around it all. If you're impatient or treating it as an urgency, then it's not going to work out the way you want it to work out. You're going to end up feeling stuck and all in your head because you see it as something you have to do. Spirituality is not a place to get to. There's not a goal at the end that you arrive at and you say, I've made it. No, that's not it. There's just a continual unfolding of who you really are. So you're just so relaxed and you're so calm and you're having experiences and you're enjoying them and you're getting the lessons out of them. So when that's happening, you're no longer being triggered, you're no longer reacting, you're just able to respond and be there for yourself first and then for other people. With spiritual work, a lot of people move into it thinking it's just something they have to do on a weekend. And they go in there and they do the seminar, they hear all this information, nothing changes. Generally, it's because they haven't got a foundation. It's like, can you imagine yourself going to the gym, walking in and seeing these guys lifting these really heavy weights, they've got these big muscles, and they're lifting like, huge things. And you go in and you start doing the same thing. You'll end up injured. You'll do yourself some damage. Because we're not designed like that. We have to build up to it. So you go in and you lift little weights. And you think, oh, this is like too easy. And the gym instructor goes, no, Just keep doing it really easy until you get your 3 lots of 10 reps. And when you've done that, handle that, now you move it up a little bit. You continue doing it until you build up to the point where you're doing those big heavy weights that you saw when you first arrived. But that takes time. But you have to build up things. The things we need to do with spirituality is, first and most importantly, is our inner security. We have to feel good about ourselves. At that particular point, when we feel good about ourselves, we're feeling strong on the inner, now all of a sudden we can handle all sorts of things out there without it phasing us. Because we know who we are, we know what we're capable of, and we can look at those other things and say, you know what, that's got nothing to do with me. Or I'm okay. Or we just look at it and smile and we move on. The second thing that's really important is discipline. The reason why disciplines are key is because spirituality isn't something that happens once and then you integrate it all, then you never have to do any more work. No, every one of us is always working on something. All of us. In fact, there's a book by Richard Bach called Illusions, and in there it has a little quote and it says, how do you know if you've finished what you come here to do this lifetime? And the answer is, well, if you're alive, you haven't. So everybody down here is working on something. If they're pretending that they don't have anything to work on, then they're actually not being truthful. Or they actually don't understand how spirituality works. I'm working on stuff. I'm working on stuff all the time. It's private. I'm working on it myself, just like everybody else is. But we're working on something. So what discipline does is discipline enables us to continue doing the work, having the experiences, putting in practice the techniques. It's about doing all those things so as we move it into who we're being, so it becomes integrated into who we actually are. And that's what travels on. And that's an ongoing process. It's not something we do once and it's over. It's something it is a process. We just keep doing it. We keep doing it ad infinitum. Now, does infinity bother you? Well, it doesn't bother me. I'll just keep, because the process becomes enjoyable. It isn't hard work. Some of you are probably thinking that spiritual work is hard work. Oh, I'm going to look at all this stuff and it's really painful. Well, that's because of the programming you have. Remember before I talked about taking off the layers? Well, taking off the layers is the key. As you take the layers off, it becomes less intense. Spiritual work doesn't have to be hard work. It doesn't have to be unpleasant. In fact, it can actually be pleasant. I love it when I discover something about myself. I don't go, oh, I'm really ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I feel a little bit awkward about the fact that that's who I used to be. No. If you're not a very nice person 5 minutes ago, today, right now, you've got a chance to be somebody different. So I don't look at that as bad, whoever I was. I just look at it, that's just who I was. It's not who I am. Who I am is this, right now. So when I'm at the point where I can own something, I say, yes, that's me. I've accepted the stuff from my past. I've accepted the behaviour I just did and said, well, that was me. Is that how I want to continue from here on? If the answer is no, now you've got an opportunity. You can change that. Have a look at what it is that you're triggered by, what upset you, what's the underlying issue. Just like with the tea bag thing, it wasn't about the tea bags. It was about me being loose with my energy, not being compact. That was a core underlying element. When we're doing this kind of work, that's what we're really looking for, the core underlying element. It's like you had a fruit tree in your backyard, quite a big fruit tree, and you decide you want to get rid of the fruit tree. So someone said to you, oh, it's really great, you just pick all the fruit and then you don't have any fruit on your fruit tree. You go, okay, great, so you pick all the fruit next year, there's a whole lot of fruit again. You go, well, that didn't work. That's like what we experience with the triggers. Why does the trigger keep coming back up again? We haven't dealt with the underlying issue. We dealt with the peripheral stuff, the superficial stuff. So the fruit on the tree is like the superficial stuff. So let's say someone else comes along and says, oh no, what you're supposed to do is you prune it. You just cut all the branches off. So you do that, but next year you have even more fruit because that's fruit trees like that being pruned away. See, that's not the answer either. So then you trace it all down and you find that all the branches that have all the fruit on all come down to a single trunk. So if you chop the trunk down at ground level, then you don't get any fruit the next year or the year after that. It's actually they're gone. It's no longer happening for you because you took the core issue and you dealt with that. So the core issue for me with that tea bags wasn't how I was reacting, wasn't that I was upset the person was ignoring me. It was none of that. The core issue was I was being loose with my own energy. When I dealt with that, none of that other stuff bothered me. I can walk into houses and there's stuff everywhere, it doesn't bother me. I don't feel like I'm in the wrong place or anything. I can just feel at home with it. Do I want my house like that? No. But am I okay with someone else having their house that way? Of course. I don't get triggered by it. I don't feel like I need to do something about it. I'm not compelled to try and fix it. I just let the other person have their experience, whatever that is. So, owning it. Owning it's a really big key. Whatever's going on for you, there's an element of it there that you need to own. So, it's been said in the past by great playwrights, etc., that the world's a mirror and all it's doing is reflecting us back. So when you are out there in your community and you see things that you really admire in people, that's because you have those. You have those inside here and you act on them. And you see things out there that you really don't like in other people. Well, here's the kicker. You have those too in here. But often what happens is we get triggered by what someone else is doing and we don't like it. And we try to fix that situation so as we can feel better. Instead of getting out there and changing with ourselves so they can do whatever they want and we're okay with, we don't get triggered, that's where we're empowered. That's where we're a victor, not a victim. While we're wanting to change somebody else so we can feel better, that's the victim mode. Someone else has the power. So now we need to get that person to change their ways so I can feel better about myself. Well, it doesn't work like that. We see something out there in someone else that we don't like, then that's an opportunity for us to say, you know what? How do I do that? Because sometimes we don't know. In fact, most of the time we don't know. So we go asking. So how does the saying go? Ask and you will be given. Seek and you shall find. They weren't said just as a pretty little saying. They're truisms. So I go looking for it. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for how do I do that? It's like with the tea bags. How do I do whatever that's triggering me? How do I do that? I put the question, it's a good question to ask. We put it out there and sure enough, the universe, our spiritual helpers, they line us up with an experience where it's right in our face what we do. We go, oh wow, that's it. That's how I do it. Now we have a choice. We go out there and change it. But that can't happen if we don't own it. If we're unwilling to be responsible for who we are, if we're unwilling to be responsible for our own solution, then we're going to be continually reacting. We're going to continue getting upset about stuff that's actually really none of our business. What someone else is doing out there is none of our business. Now, if it's affecting me, it's part of my business. I need to set boundaries. That's a whole other talk. But what we're talking about here is about owning what's upsetting us. So anything that upsets me, I do that. I now look for it, I find it, I deal with it, I integrate it, I'm transformed. So then what happens? We just keep doing that. Is an end to it? Well, yeah, there is really. You get to the point where you live a calm, lovely life and all the stuff's happening around you and you're not getting upset. Does that mean you still get upsetting at it? Of course you will. But not all the time. Most people walk around 24/7 upset. And they put a mask on, pretending they're not upset. That's what happens. The vast majority of people out there are upset. Now they're just operating over the top of it. So it's getting to the point where you don't have to operate over the top of anything. You're just enjoying yourself, enjoying life. So when someone breaks down and gets upset, you're not dismissive of it, but you're compassionate. You're being able to show unconditional love. Why? Because you have it in you now. That's what that discipline did. When you build that muscle and you get good at this sort of thing, all this stuff starts happening automatically. Now you're a tremendous service to all the people around you. You're an example to everybody out there how life can be. And some will follow and some won't. Some people want to stay where they are. That's okay too. I'm not here to change them. I'm not here to direct them. This is self-guided. You direct yourself, not somebody else. You don't want to be into teaching. Get out there and knowing what's best for other people. That's what teaching is. It doesn't work for them and it doesn't work for you. You actually feel quite unfulfilled at the end of it. And you start missing out on yourself because you're looking for your own satisfaction outside of yourself in what you do for other people. So being of service is important. When you're of service to people, you're actually doing it for yourself. And the people around you are the beneficiaries of you doing something nice for yourself. See, when I do something nice for someone else, I feel really good. I actually do it to make me feel really good. Isn't that funny? Everyone thinks they do it to make the other person feel good. Well, actually, no. I do it to make myself feel good. And that person out there is the beneficiary of that experience, that exercise that I did. Is that called selfish? No, it isn't actually. Selfish is me first, me second, me third, and nobody else matters. Whereas when you put yourself first, you become your number one loyalty. So me as a soul, that's my number one priority. My second priority is my physical body. This is where I live. If I don't look after my physical body, no one else is going to. And then it deteriorates, I've got nowhere to live. My third priority is my loved ones, my immediate family, the people I care deeply about. And my fourth priority is my greater community. So when we have it in that order, life is grand. It's fantastic. When we have the order switched around, it's not so great. And society teaches us to have that all swapped around. It teaches us to put everyone else first and put ourselves last. In fact, the very last thing we're taught to do is put our spirituality last. Our physical body second last, our family first, the greater community second. That's usually what people get. So if you're bringing your family up, making them the priority and not yourself, you're teaching them to do the same thing with their family. So mum and dad, it's important to go out on date nights, have a night out on your own. Kids will understand that you're looking after your relationship. You know, that's really important. You're not making the kids the number one. The kids aren't the number one. Kids are number three. I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But if you follow number one and number two in order, number three becomes really easy. You look after your family much easier. It's when we're not looking after ourselves, looking after number three, our loved ones first, that actually becomes really hard because we've left ourselves out. We don't have the inner security. We don't have the discipline, the inner strength. So when we have those things in place, and we look after ourselves first, and then our physical body, and then our loved ones, it's really easy to look after your loved ones. And you're giving them the message of looking after themselves first, making themselves a priority, not the only priority. And as they grow up, they'll flip around between it's all about me, and then it'll be all about not me, then all about me and all about not me. And as a parent, you'll guide them along that path. So, well, no, that's not what we're talking about. Oh, you need to stay home because you're not well? Okay, you need to look after yourself. We'll be home by such and such a time. So as mentioned earlier, the key here for spiritual work is calmness. When we're calm and we can do something to keep ourselves calm, then we're actually in control. We're in a situation where we're the victor. We're not the victim anymore because we can actually manage our own situation. So this technique is in the free ebook, Guide to Inner Peace. It's a fantastic technique called spiritual cleansing, and that'll help calm you down. You can use it anywhere you like. You can do it mentally. So if someone's there having a go at you, you can be doing it mentally. Very powerful technique. There's a lot of other really good information there in the ebook too. Help give you a broader understanding of how all this works and what's actually there for you. So that's the first step. So whatever spiritual work you're doing, yes, it is possible to always come out and get value out of it, no matter who's doing it or wherever you're getting it from. Even places you haven't got the value from in the past, you go back and do that again after you start to apply the information you learn in our system. So if there's been anything that made sense to you in this video, or you think maybe I'd like to give this a try, go to my website, www.unleashthespiritwithin.com.au, download the free ebook, The Guide to Inner Peace, go through and read that. Then when you've read that, take the next step and get involved in the community and you'll be really glad you did.